1 second. All right, Chair Metzen, we're ready.
Okay. We'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is 11/24/2015.
Okay. Members present: Claire Met. Jonathan Stone.
Here.
Ken Basinger.
Aye.
Bob Seward.
Here.
Chair Metzen.
Here.
We're all here. This is exciting.
Okay. So we will start off by opening a public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read an opening statement. We will now commence the public hearing on agenda items HR 1504 and HR 1505. A request for approval of a carport improvement and a garage replacement. The criteria for approval of land use action are contained in Chapter 17 of the Oregon Municipal Code. The proposed development must comply with the applicable provisions contained in the Oregon City Comprehensive Plan. Generally, unless otherwise noted, if a request is found to be consistent with the municipal code, it is considered consistent with the comprehensive plan. If you wish to participate in this hearing, including challenges for basis or conflict of interest, you must complete the sign-in form located on the table in front of the room and deliver it to staff. Please do so immediately. The chair will only recognize those who have submitted complete forms. Testimony will be taken in the following order. Number 1, applicant. 2, testimony in favor. 3, testimony in opposition. 4, rebuttal by the applicant. When recognized by the chair, please come forward to the podium, give your name, address, and make your statements. All testimony, arguments, and evidence presented regarding this request must be directed toward the applicable criteria or other criteria in the plan or land use regulation which the person believes to apply to the decision. Please address only the applicable criteria for this decision. Please do not repeat testimony. If you wish, you may choose merely to agree with the previous speaker's statements. An issue which may be the basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals shall be raised not later than the close of the record or following the final evidentiary hearing. Such issues shall be raised and accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Commission and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision makers and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of persons to participate in the public hearing, either orally or in writing, precludes that person's right of appeal to the City Council or LUBA. Written testimony submitted prior to the hearing constitutes participation in the hearing. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the decision maker to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. The Commission shall grant such requests by continuing the public hearing pursuant to standards contained in ORS 197763. Starting with HR 1504, do any of the board members have a conflict of interest or ex parte contact regarding this application?
No.
No.
No. Okay. And who has visited the site?
I have not.
Okay.
But not.
Okay. Well, let's jump into it then.
All right. Thank you, Chair Metzen. I'm going to go through a quick PowerPoint and then kind of explain kind of my thought process for this, and then we'll have the applicant come up. Just real briefly, 151 Malala is a landmark, which means it's a designated structure outside of our historic districts. And it is in the MUC zone, which is a mixed-use corridor zone, but it is an existing single-family house. And so Jacqueline and Amy McNeil came to the city and said, we would like to expand and provide a massage therapy bed studio for our home occupation, which we do, which is allowed no matter if you're in a commercial zone or if you're in an R6 zone. And so we are processing them through House Edition, and they're going through the home occupation business license, which means that anybody working on the site needs to live on the site. And so our home occupation license have approval for a lot of different professions. It could be architect, it could be a massage therapist, it could be we have hairstylists. As long as you don't sell any goods on the property, you can really do professional services through home occupation. So they identified their back carport, which this is actually you can see from it's abuts an alley next to Malal Avenue, and so it's a bit of a this interesting shed roof mid-century carport. It just barely touches the house in the back, but for the most part, it's a freestanding building. The way our Historic Review Board policies work, myself as staff have an ability to approve exterior alterations, but in this case, this was such a substantial change between a carport and by putting the walls in and adding that, I just felt more comfortable bringing this up through a land use process, just because it was such a substantial change from, in Oregon City, it's a structure's a structure. A structure still has a roof. It's not changing. It's 4 posts. So with my planner hat on, it would not be considered a new construction because there's no change in footprint. But in this case, because of just the substantial effect, I felt it warranted going up in front of the Historic Review Board approval. So I worked with the applicants to turn kind of their designs in. These definitely are not. They did not hire an architect. They put together their plans, but they really want to do the right thing. And so we kind of worked at what we thought. When you have this balance of taking Secretary of Interior standards to heart, when you do an addition, you don't want to fake a history to try to create something that never was. So we don't want to match so closely, but yet we want it to be compatible. So they kind of went with the approach of we're keeping the kind of the existing shape, but enclosing it with lap siding to closely match the house dimensions, as well as utilizing wood windows and doors. And so it's just very simple. And the idea is we painted the same as the house and kind of visually go away, but provide new economic opportunity for both them and Malal Avenue. So this is just briefly their layout. If you were at the alley side here, there would just be a small window. There'd be the door that connects up to the kind of breezeway connecting to the back door would be this way. There's proposed double French doors here that would lead out to potentially a new sauna area outside that they're looking at potentially. This is the back of the property this way. So if you're looking at this elevation, this is the elevation you would see directly behind the house, the back door of the house. This is looking basically the farthest, what are we, east or southeast, depending because how Malala is at a corner. But this is facing the rear of the property. And then this is the side that would face into the landscape side yard, and then this is the window you would see from the alley.
From the alley or the street?
From the alley. So kind of go back again. This is that small window, door. These are the French doors. There's no windows on this elevation, and this is the side yard, and then the rear of the house is right here. So right now I don't really have any additional recommendations. They propose to use all wood siding doors and windows. They wanted to try to do reclaim wood windows, but I let them know that building code probably wouldn't let them because it's a new habitable structure. But I was fine with working with them on their final decision. But either simple 1/1 windows or what they chose I thought was reasonable. This is the idea is this addition should be compatible, but kind of visually go away and try not to compete with the historic house. Does anybody have any questions? I can go back
When
to...
was the original carport built, do you know?
I do not know. I can let the applicant know. Just by its age, it's looking like it's 60s.
So if it's going to be used as a commercial
It's not. It's going to be used for home occupation.
home occupation, so there's no parking requirements.
No, this is home occupation. Though there is some informal parking in the alley. Actually, we see that red car. There's also a business on the other side that is it's a financial, I think a mortgage. Yeah, so there is some informal parking.
And
But
the
I-
zoning is commercial residential.
But the zone is commercial, but it's a pre-existing residence in the zone.
Is that Country Financial just to the
I
east?
think so, yes.
Okay. Okay, shall we bring the applicant up?
Sure.
Is there any issue with the subtraction of parking? I'm just curious.
It's a single-family residence, so no.
Amy, please introduce yourself and give us your
I'm
address.
Jacqueline. My wife is Amy.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I live right up on Malala. We moved here about 2 years ago, purchased the house, and realized it had the MUC 1 zoning, which opened it up for some possibilities, and we were really excited about that. So trying to look at the property lineup, we picked the carport, obviously, because there is existing already there. It saves us some fundage to try to get this going, but also it does the least amount of change on the property. I like the fact that there's a nice yard there to utilize on the other side so that we can really keep a distance between our business and our own home inside. I'm not putting any plumbing in. I'm really trying to keep it simple. The first thing you come into in our back door is a bathroom that I can separate from the rest of our house, which makes it perfect for utilizing in that sense. We don't want it just for business. One of the first things we did was took out one of the rooms upstairs. Being an old home, it had just such a tiny little nook back there. It wasn't even almost like a walk-in closet space, so we added that to a master bedroom, which only gives us 2 bedrooms. So when my parents come to visit or anybody comes over, it would be really nice to be able to actually have this as a dwelling space. Woman cave, if you will, extra space in general. It's a very sectioned off home, so this would also a lot since we're making it where the rooms are almost L-shaped, so that I can do a couples massage too and put a slider door in there so it opens to allow for that space to be very open. So if we wanted to throw a TV in there, my family comes over, easy entertainment spot, and it's mostly what we're excited for is to add extra square footage.
So you're going to make them sleep on the massage tables?
I might. I actually am thinking about one of those hideaway beds because it looks like a bookshelf and you can fold it down. So I've put a lot of thought into my plan to try to utilize the space as best I could. I built out my shop in Milwaukee that I have, so I'm looking for this to be a second location. So I'm excited. Yeah.
Excellent. Do we have any questions?
The roof slope is going to be.
There's already a slope that comes down and it actually runs into the gutter of the house, and they made them seam together so that it tracks it down. So it does have an angled slope towards my property, the house property line there.
And that's going to be maintained.
And it would just stay the same, yeah. We wouldn't be altering anything of the cement below. And there's actually a 6-inch ridge where those big poles are. They're actually 6-inch by 6-inch. And we're just going to follow that and make those walls nice and thick so that it's not so loud with the traffic noise for massages. And for those that guests, we actually know, being with single pane windows upstairs, how loud it can be with all the traffic. So I'm hoping to help out guests with, a little bit more convenient space. So we're going to actually just build right on top of the walls that are already there, which makes it easy. So we do have some extra. There's almost like a 2-inch gap for that space from the foundation to the ridge of the 6-inch wall. So we have some area for floor to put in a nice floor. It's already really made for us to just build on it. It makes it easy. We're going to tie into the. That wood is still really old that it's made out of. I'm really appreciative of it. So there are beams every 4 feet. I'm actually going to recess my ceiling in the plan that I have and leave those beams in there so we can have a really nice rich wood and still try to make a nice, and utilize what is even in that structure. Because the last recorded thing I saw for it was in the 80s. Somebody came through, did some historical records. I did put that in here, so the reference is made. That's the one thing on record that I could see in the 80s that was already there, but I don't see when it was put in, and I didn't, even in the old historical report, I didn't see anything, but I know that it's older than the 80s. So the only other thing I can think of.
So are you going to do other kinds of therapies besides massage in that facility?
Do a lot of different therapies, but all of them are within massage modalities. I'm pre-med at PSU, so the potential for other things is definite.
I was just, you just said you weren't going to do any plumbing for water, and I'm just wondering, some therapies require
If
water.
I did, I would. I mean, it's not that I don't necessarily have potential to expand to that as well. I mean, if I wanted to go that route later, I'm sure I'll be visiting you guys again. But everything's within. I'm not taking out any loans. Everything's just coming out of pocket. I'm doing most of the construction myself with some other people that are willing to do some trade, which is nice to have some guys under the belt for that. It's good. But when it comes down to it, I'm going to try to just go along as it works out. I'd like to see if this takes off here in Oregon City as well first before I expand. But it would be something I'd look forward to in the future. Make it a lot nicer in there. Yeah.
Yeah. The application showed on the side elevation with the sloped roof, siding coming up, and then it appeared as if there was a piece of trim.
Yeah.
There is.
There it is.
Or
This-
was the intent that the lap siding would go up and meet a horizontal trim?
Now everything's open because it's just a carport from that framing to the angle.
Mhm.
We will put soffit and what is it, fascia, something?
Fascia.
Fascia
Mhm.
board. We're gonna put all that in and enclose it, but there will be. That's why we drew in the vents on there, real basic, but that's what those little grid marks are on the side to your left, because we do have to make sure it stays ventilated. But we will put a cover to that so it's closed in, like a nice face front board.
Okay.
And there is already some trim that does come down on the side. Every 4 feet or something, they put anchors for planters out there and things. When there was a realty used to have the building, so they did all kinds of landscaping, and they have it already kind of set up for some plants and things in there. So they have a frontal board on it.
Okay. Great.
Is there something with that? Is there something you're thinking of? So I make sure that I
Christina, can you go to the other elevation? No. The other elevation.
That one.
That one. So as I'm looking at the horizontal lap siding, it goes up and then terminates horizontally. And it almost appears as if the fascia board on this side starts skinny and gets very fat so it kind of does something like this. And I wasn't sure if that was the intent or if you would have the horizontal siding going up with a fascia board that's
Oh, I get
1
what
by
you're
10.
saying. Would I do it
So that's
the
actually
whole-
angled.
Yeah, I would actually just do the siding up to that point, because then it's all insulation, so we'll just put a board to that to close that in, unless there is some kind of restriction or some other way to do it that would make more sense for you guys.
I think typically the fascia board runs parallel with the roof pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Follows the
Mhm.
line.
Yeah.
Siding goes up.
Up to
Yeah,
that.
just
right.
as it's shown,
Somewhere I-
just as it's shown in the picture,
Yeah.
more or less.
It went away.
Yeah. So your
It's hard without a visual, isn't it? It's hard with this roof line too, because it's not set up like a regular house roof line. It's really not. So
Just like a shed roof.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly
it's
what
a
it
different.
is.
a
Yeah.
very quick sketch,
Yes.
something like this, whereas exaggerated, you have that
So
that
that
drawing.
fascia board would be something like a 2x6 or 2x8.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be different from the siding. The siding, we were only planning to run that up to a spot. There's a beam that actually runs horizontally, where we would stop it and run the roof and the insulation and everything from there. And I wouldn't want a side all the way up so that I have access to get in there.
Access to get in where?
Well, the venting and stuff like that. I would want to have, I've never seen vents in the siding, I guess, in my mind. Maybe I'm wrong.
The
but-
vents will be underneath.
Under.
Yeah, I
So your
think
wall's not going to be completely flush with the edge of the fascia board, is it? Or is there going to be a little bit of a gap so that you can then run
Just
vents?
for me, I just don't. This would go to my guys that I'm bringing on.
Oh,
They
sure.
know this stuff. I don't.
Sure.
I don't really know this.
We can do a recommended condition of approval that kind of gets to this.
Do you want me to? I mean, what I can easily do is, he's even the one that did these little rudimentary pictures. He came over, we walked through it one night, and so he put that in.
Maybe
and
if I stand up and point at
no,
this.
please do, by
Okay.
all means.
So this is the elevation that I'm talking about,
Hmm.
and I think you're talking about these two other elevations, where
Yes, yeah.
So extra siding here.
So that, there should be siding up in that location, whereas you'd have let's say a 2x10 that's angled going down.
Right.
It doesn't vary in thickness, it just down,
Straight down.
and
And then
allows
you
the
just-
siding to go up and.
So just
and
tell me
Fill in.
which one would be the one you would want me to do, and it'll be done. I guess that's the easiest way to put it.
I was.
Is there a standard to that? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was
that's
not
pretty
something I
standard.
saw in here. In
Yeah.
all the readings that I did, I didn't see any standard with anything with that. I did read some with the gutters or the boards, but whatever it is that the requirement is, I definitely make sure we follow.
Okay. And I would say consistent fascia width. I'm not going to specify what it needs to be, but
Got it. And then that we can work backwards on that.
yeah.
I think we can
And I-
provide pretty clear.
Applicant.
Yeah, and I think when you
And that might be
start building
simpler.
that exterior wall, you'll see what we're talking about.
It'll be evident
Yeah.
It'll probably be simpler than
what you were thinking.
what's here.
Yeah.
You know, what you're showing actually requires, as far as I can interpret, is more framing and extra work.
A ton of
Because
cutting.
we'd have to actually put crossboards
Yeah.
to put
Yeah.
the boards up in the whole nine as opposed to just
Yeah.
putting up the siding.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And then right now, your window trim, does it have miter cuts? So
The
Looks
picture
like
shows
it.
miter
It
cuts.
shows miter.
It's got, we were just going to put regular miter right in around.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're going to just try to match what's on we're going to try to get as close to the house, but, just complement it as much as possible. We're trying to stay as basic. So the mitered corners are just a very basic corner. We're just trying to put some nice basic trim to the wood
okay.
right on the edge.
Most times you'd see a butt joint at those corners rather than a miter.
Is that better for the window in general?
Mhm.
Okay.
So now, if your existing house has mitered corners, then that would make sense to match. I just think when you go back and look at your house, I'm not sure that actually does. So just throw that out there.
So I'm going to check in with the south and north facing walls, whether it's going to be siding all the way up to the top or.
So I have two conditions of approval I just wrote.
Conditions.
I think number 4, the applicant to utilize a consistent width to the fascia board.
Mhm.
And 5, the applicant shall design the trim to match the main house to the extent practicable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I have listed. And
And
would you
that'll
like
all
me
be spelled
to?
out. That'll all be
she'll
spelled
get
out. when
you'll
you
get a
it.
final notice. It'll have
Right.
these on there.
Perfect. Would it be easier to have him redraw those drawings and submit
No.
them?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once these conditions, these are basically your legal to-do list.
And now you
Yeah, so it's got to be
can-
proved at the end. Show.
So I'll go out and do a final.
Excellent.
It was recorded on the television, so we're good. Just to cover our bases, I think we should call testimony in favor of, testimony in opposition, rebuttal by the applicant. Okay, we're
None
good.
of the above.
Sweet and simple.
I have a question about the doors. So there's a double set of doors. Is that the intended configuration of those doors in terms of like the panel style? And that faces out into the alleyway, is that my
Actually, it
understanding?
faces out to the rear of the house.
The rear of the
The
house.
drawing don't look what
This is the
like what
alley?
I perceive as French doors.
Okay,
They look more
but
like
the plan
doors
the
in
plan
a kitchen
suggests
in a
the
restaurant.
plan shows. Oh, I'm sorry, alley's over there. So this goes out into the yard. Then I'm guessing.
The north side of the yard.
There's about a 12 to 15 foot
Oh, excuse me.
distance from that wall that's 22 where you're seeing the doors that open to keep going downwards. You can even see there's trees back there. There's a fence line. There's at least about 15 feet at least
So that's
to
a-
that back space. So it
It-
would
it-
be French doors, that standard French doors that would just
Oh,
open.
okay. So the drawings didn't suggest.
French doors.
So you could
French
actually,
door.
you could trim that tree back and actually have a parking area back there, right?
Yeah, could.
Yeah.
Could. It's kind of hard to get in there, which is why I'm taking away this carport too, because it's so hard to get in and out with that alleyway, especially since, I don't know if you can quite see from this, but that corner across from us, you don't have room to back up. As long as that is, it'd be great for an RV, but I want to see somebody. I grew up on a farm. I can drop a trailer on a dime. I get my trailer in and out of there just fine, but it's a pain.
But it's a
a
pain,
pain. So it's not even really usable as an RV or a long carport space. Even my car getting in and out of there.
For a client,
Yeah.
you could park in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
In the front area, there's actually already the cement parking stoppers. From it being the Realtor before, they have there's actually 4 parking spots in there with.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
there is some room.
Yeah,
I guess my question is, do we care about the style of the door? Because the verbal description was French door, and the drawing just showed something a bit more institutional looking.
Right now, I have a condition that all doors, window, and siding are wood. So I'm comfortable if a wood door is proposed, but if the board wants to provide additional detail, they can
What
in
are
the
you
condition.
I think it's hand drawn, so the proportions are off, which is to be expected. So I think what we're looking at is a third light door. But we should ask the applicant.
Well, French door
But
does
you're
have
asking the applicant
more light.
what they're hoping for.
Well, so the applicant explained French door,
Uh-huh.
which to me would be more of a full panel, at least in terms of my sort of lay understanding of what a French door is.
I was going to put a slider in, and that was one thing that I had talked to her
Yeah,
about,
and
and
they
she had
said
said
no.
that I needed to put a standard French door in there. So that's what I'm taking it from, was something that I already felt was a restriction from just, so that's what we were putting in there, was just a standard full pane open, which, so
double.
maybe I'm not using the right term in French, but
So I think what happened was what you're drawing is not, you're only showing a partial window. So usually French door we call full light,
Full
so the
window.
whole thing is a window.
which will add a lot of light.
I am planning a full,
Okay,
full, yeah.
it seems more appropriate.
Yes, and that is what I'm planning. I think that's even described in here too, is that I planned to put one full wooden door with a single pane on the front, so that we actually have light out of the door as well from that side. Because there's not a lot of windows in here. Part of that's for massage, to keep the noise down, to keep the light out. But I do want to have some windows to be for security, which is why I face the alleyway, so that I'd have some access to seeing people, and then I'll have the door window in that door so you can see into the parking area, and then the back area, it's going to be those full paneled glass pane where they both open, but
French
usually
doors.
the handle to the one side is what I was thinking from what her description was the basics and standard, and that would go off to eventually a wooden patio that I just want to build back there. And there's that. No, that's it. Yeah, door, window, and so be three exit areas out of the building.
I'm happy to condition that the half light side door and a full light French doors, just as part of number 3.
Okay.
I'm ready to make a motion for approval subject to the 3 conditions stated.
Second.
All right, Claire Matt,
Aye.
Jonathan Stone,
Hey,
Ken Basinger,
Aye.
Bob Seward,
Aye.
Chair Metzen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Yay.
So you can go in tomorrow if you want, or you want to go Thanksgiving, whatever. But the next available moment, you can come in and apply for your building permits. And then what I do is I just put a hold on the final, and I'll review it and I'll make sure, and just call me, as you're getting close to it, and I'll go out.
They come and inspect me on the building.
Yeah, so the
side
building
and then-
permit process, it's its own parallel process, and then I come in, I have to come in at the end, but sometimes if you want, I'm happy to come out and through the process if you want, kind of okay that you're not doing something, that's
I might have you come over to check the doors and windows before I put them in.
Or siding.
No way.
happy to do it.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is exciting.
Yeah, looking
it
forward
is.
to a new business here soon. So.
You have a card? Can we get cards?
I don't have any on me. I'm getting my logo done next week. So I just,
Bob,
I haven't met any of you guys yet.
Nice to meet you.
Any farm girl who can back up a trailer is okay.
And then give a massage afterwards. I like that. Yeah.
Everybody's all excited about the sauna so far. I got people that said, "Oh, we might be coming from northern Portland, but we'll still come to the work." Have a great day.
Thank you.
You too.
I have a question for, so you said earlier that you couldn't sell product out of the.
Can't, our home occupation license does not allow product.
Okay,
being
but
sold.
most massage parlors will sell.
And I did let them know that they couldn't do it. 'Cause
Okay.
it's the same thing as like a hair salon.
Yeah,
If you
can't sell.
if you get your home occupation license through if you live in your house and you want to have like that little side unit, you can't technically sell goods, and that's the bargain.
That's the law. Yeah.
Is if you want to sell goods, you need to put your salon, or you need to have your salon in a commercial spot.
zone.
Okay.
But can't somebody have an internet business? Out
Yeah,
of their home?
what the idea is when I sell products, I can't go to your place, exchange money with you, pick up a
Carry
widget,
away
and walk
something.
the widget out into my car.
So you can say,
that's retail
client,
sales.
client, go home,
I will
order
mail
from
them.
our
Yeah, that's fine.
website,
Yeah, that's fine.
and then we will
Absolutely.
deliver to your door.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't do retail sales. So I say sales, sorry, you can't do retail sales
Okay. Out of the home.
out of the home.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Moving on to HR 1505. Who has visited the site?
I have.
Who has a conflict of interest? I recuse myself. Jonathan, you take over.
Nice segue.
Oh boy.
All right.
Oh, I see.
All right. Oops. There we go. Okay.
So is the applicant here?
I was going to say, just
Yeah.
go
Tell me
straight
what
the-
to say. I don't know.
Well, actually, Derek was able to do the whole thing.
Good.
So he just did
So you have to read
visit
that.
the site. Did you visit the site in conflict of interest? Okay.
Yep.
So that's it. That's
So you're good to
Jonathan.
go.
He did a twofer with the initial reading.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, because he mentioned both of them?
Yep.
Gotcha.
So,
One way to get around.
I know. Once I heard our attorneys allowed to do this, I'm like, how could I only learned like about 5 years ago? I'm like, how did I not know that you could do that? These are things you need to tell me. All right. Well, just let me get this up going. This is HR 1505. Oh no, shoot! I'm sorry. I have the wrong. I did not change the address. Apologize. So 302 Madison. This is a designated structure in the McLaughlin Conservation District. You'll notice that there is kind of a shell of a pre-existing garage right here. So the applicant actually came to me a little while back and really wanted to see about enlarging the garage. There is an easement on this side of the property that really precludes very much. He initially wanted the garage to kind of go this way, but because of the easement issues, there really was an opportunity to get a kind of a full two-car garage with two 10-foot doors and the spacing. And so I think with what Derek was able to do is kind of enlarge either side a little bit and provide a new kind of smaller double-car garage that can get you that width. And so the applicant, because of this, has a couple of historic preservation incentives they need. And just to remind everybody, is because Claire was here the last time we had preservation incentives, but the idea is inherently in historic districts, a lot of existing buildings and even historically appropriate buildings don't often meet our city's exact dimensional standard requirement. This is a perfect example of one that is quite historically appropriate to put a new garage right at the street. We have a fair amount of examples of that in McLaughlin, but our Oregon City setbacks don't require it. Two things: we have a front yard setback, and we actually even have a setback that requires a 20-foot setback for garages on the street. And mainly, you have to think of yourself, go into your suburban subdivision brain, and that is because we don't want maybe a garage 10 foot from the back of the sidewalk. That's where we start getting cars blocking the sidewalk as they try to park. So actually, we kind of like it either as 0 or 20. We don't like 10 because 10 is actually more
Half a car.
complicated, and you're most likely going to start blocking people. And so,
Smart car.
yeah, those don't come as much in here. So this was actually sent to our engineering division and let them know that the applicant was looking at a preservation incentive to, actually three things: to have a new accessory building in front of a house, which is not necessarily automatically allowed, to have a garage less than 20 feet, and to be built in the front yard setback. So those are kind of the combined preservation incentives you'll be approving tonight if you move forward. So the let me just kind of briefly show. You have the existing walls of the garage. I'm going to use her right here, and then you'll see the revised. It's slightly just bigger on all the sides. What that does, though, is this gets slightly in front of the house, but I think because the applicant is constrained on this side, they're doing really the best they can for trying to get a new full two-car garage, kind of using all the tricks in the toolbox to get you there. This shows this is one garage door, but the applicant has panelized it, and so it appears to breaks up the mass. You'll see the
switches.
yeah.
And that'll be wood construction.
We would.
Yeah, it's a wood garage door. Then you'll see proposed and existing, and then this is showing proposed and existing. So really still utilizing that flat roof feel. Mm-hmm. If you go back to this, I think one of the other reasons this works is the 302 Madison House is lifted up a little bit and has a little bit of an elevation, and so it has some prominence. So having this kind of flat roof garage in front, even if it's a foot or two, a little bit into the front of the house, it's not so dramatically blocking the view of the house because the house has a prominent location.
Well, not to mention the most prominent view direction is from the angle that this photo is taken.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to experience it coming the other direction.
Correct. Unless you're lost.
Right.
And then you're going back down the hill.
In which case you're elevated.
Which means you shouldn't be looking at the garage.
That sounds like a real experience to me.
Yeah.
Let's see. So what I have for the conditions. Oh, one more thing. Denise McGriff, the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, did provide a comment about garage doors. And if this garage door was appropriate, there's a little bit of a philosophical question you always ask when you're putting when you have a 19th century house. You have a vernacular or a Queen Anne or whatever the architecture is, and that's not bungalow. And then you're putting a garage in, which most likely was historically put in the 1920s or 30s, that often had more bungalow elements. So, if you have a vernacular or like a Queen Anne house, you went for more of a carriage house design, which might have been there, then are you faking a history that wasn't there because you're making too big of a structure? And so there's always that philosophical. Then if you build a kind of more simple bungalow, which would have been the design in the 1920s, how do we make it a simple version today? So there's always a little bit of a, I think, philosophy about how exactly we treat the design and detail of garages, especially when we're not dealing with a bungalow house or arts and crafts house or craftsman. So I think I'm comfortable with what's proposed for the garage doors. I think they are reasonable. You don't necessarily have to be exactly bungalow or exactly vernacular. But what you need to do is make sure that at the end of the day, your garage is not the primary architectural element of your lot, and that it continues to stay the historic house. So that's where my vision always goes, is what are we doing that provides a nice addition or a nice new construction, but at the end of the day, you should be still putting your gaze towards the historic house and not the new addition. So to me, I look at, these elements like lighting or doors to make sure that you're not faking. We don't want to put a colonial light in a bungalow because it seems like everyone wants to do that, and so that not doing that. But when it gets down, I'm more comfortable with a simpler approach is more than fine, as long as you're not bringing in an architectural style that's completely inappropriate for the design. So that's kind of my 2 cents. What I have for conditions of approval is proposing approval of the preservation incentive. There was a request because it's not technically a demolition because it's just walls, so they don't have to go through our demolition process, but just take existing photos for the file to allow us to have that in our file of what it looked like. But one thing they are in is in our geologic hazards overlay, and so it's within the way our code works. It's it's 50 feet in the bottom of a slope and 50 feet from the top of a slope. Because if you do work on either, even if it's flat, you can affect the stability. And the way our code is set up, it's kind of every scenario. So it can be some process like this, we're hoping can go through our building official, through the building permit process to look at geologic hazards. And I sent Derek an email about that. So I think we're moving that forth. I don't think what any work they're doing for excavation is going to trigger anything more than a building permit review, but I put a cautionary condition just to let everyone know and continue to work on it. But I think it's one of those where oftentimes the more detailed information you provide about how exactly you're going to do it, the more comfortable they are going through the building permit review process.
See in the drawing here what appears to be a pair of buttresses on the one side, not that one, but the floor plan drawing. There are those two buttresses there on the north wall, or what am I?
Those things, yeah.
Oh,
It's just
those
the
are
awning windows.
Those are awning windows.
Okay.
For a matter of procedure, hello, my name's Derek Metzen.
Yeah.
Address 1300 John Adams Street, Suite 106,
As
Oregon
you
City.
can tell, my architectural training is limited.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
What's the elevation? Looks like about 6 feet of hillside against the back wall.
I don't know if you were. Oh, if everyone can check their microphones, make sure we're on, because somebody's not on.
Red light on, is that what?
Oh,
Mine's
which
on.
one? Oh,
Am I just
Ken, you
not
need to lean up
talking
closer to
in
the
it?
mic. Yes.
Tell you what, Ken,
forward
I'll
now.
give a short presentation and
Thank
describe
you.
the project a little bit.
Yeah.
So we don't have an initial date for the construction of the existing garage. It's deteriorated quite a bit. We looked at putting a new roof on top of it because we can see from the formwork in those existing walls where the initial roof joist went and how that roof was initially constructed. But it's leaks like a sieve, and it's just not safe. So we do need to take down those walls. We will be essentially expanding on either side, north and south, 30 inches. Currently, the front of the garage, where those retaining walls come out and stop, is 30 inches from the property line. And we'll be expanding the garage essentially 5 feet in width and 5 feet in depth to accommodate a two-car garage. To center it on that existing driveway, we're going 30 inches north and south. The drawing that is enclosed in the package shows the 5-foot extension going backwards. In our written narrative, I described requesting that 3-foot setback, that 30 inches to 3 foot, to be decreased to preservation incentive to allow it to be 3 feet, but as little as a 0 lot line setback there in the written narrative. One, because it gets us farther away from the geological hazard, and two, well, really, I just want to reduce the cut as much as possible. The existing house, their first floor finished floor is approximately 10 feet above the finished floor elevation of the garage. The foundation, we need to do some more exploration, but we've got a significant pony wall on that Madison Street frontage, which is about 4.5, 5 feet, and then the foundation goes down from there. And so our foundation, the bottom of our foundation actually sits relatively close to the finished floor of the garage. So we've got 2 feet in elevation from the finished floor of the garage up to where those stairs start, and then another 6 or 7 feet up from there, going up to the finished floor. And the house is an Italianate style, not a vernacular, which it is. It's listed as Italianate, which is essentially vernacular, but a little bit more dressed up, is kind of what that falls under. So it's definitely not a bungalow, but with the vernacular you may see, well, you certainly see less ornamentation, less detail at the top of the windows. You may not see the same sort of skirting details, and that this house has several of those features. So we picked up on the skirting details. We drew the garage. As we look at the front elevation, we brought the concrete foundation across the front, up roughly a third of the elevation height. So it makes a nice solid base. We'll have a wood skirt from there at the bottom of the siding, and then wood siding going up from there, which wraps both the north and the south elevation to give it some kind of presence along the front. Looking at bringing those concrete walls all the way to the street or the front property line, it just felt a little harsh, and the front facade felt a little applied. So wrapping that siding along the north and south elevations, particularly on the north elevation where we've got those two windows, gives it a nice consistency. And then we make that what might be considered an awkward transition from siding to concrete on the elevation that faces the house. So the existing garage had windows on both the north and south side, and then also a couple windows on the east elevation. The windows on the east elevation had been infilled because there was issues with water infiltration, and just given the adjacency of the grade on the south side and the east side of this building, we elected not to put any windows there. We're just having those on the north side. I did bring Exhibit A, which is a few options that we could discuss about garage door options. The owner's pretty flexible about what they do there. I will say that the garage door that I selected is very similar in style to their existing front door. Their existing front door is not the original front door, but matching what is similar. So, copy 5 will be for you.
Thank you. Ooh, I like that. Very pretty.
The carriage door.
So I felt any of these would fit. The Pizarro was what I initially specified and what's shown up in the drawing. We can have a discussion about that.
Is that a one-piece door or is it a sectional?
It is a door that is similar in construction to any typical garage door that you'd see, except that it is made to appear panelized from the front as if it is a carriage door.
And it has the carriage straps on it?
Nice looking door.
No, what
Okay.
we're proposing would not have
Okay,
carriage straps.
good. I don't think that,
No.
okay.
It's very pretty.
And these illustrations show 2 doors. We would have 4, essentially. So.
So like in the photograph.
Yeah.
That photograph has, I believe that's an 18-foot wide door,
I was gonna say, that looks
and
a lot
we're
bigger.
requesting a 16-foot wide door, so it would be narrower. The proportions would.
You say that's the
skinnier.
Pizarro? The
Yeah.
one that's in the picture that you're proposing?
Oh, the one in the picture is
Castle Grove.
Castle Grove.
Yeah.
What we
Yeah.
specified in the submittal, the elevation behind you,
Right.
that's the
It's
Pizarro.
The Pizarro.
I was confused.
Got it.
Could you go back to the front view photo?
Do you mean let's do the Google one?
There
That
it
one
is.
or this one?
That one.
Oh, okay. So it's an optical illusion. Never mind. I had go back to the other one that you had. Those 2 front windows up there? Don't they look
Yeah.
like they're different sizes?
Something happened.
They do, I'm looking at the
No,
one
yeah,
That's
you're
Google
feathered
Map
with.
stitching.
It's the Google Map card.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry. There
and
you
then
go.
that lovely
Can you tell me a
window.
little more about that?
When was that earthquake?
Yeah.
It's just Google Maps.
Okay,
It's not
thank you,
perfect.
because I was wondering, what? And then somebody put that window in above it, in the
I
gable.
thought maybe it's part of the
end.
Italian aid. I don't know.
No.
The low profile on the garage roof should keep it. It's not going to be significantly higher than what the old one was, is it?
No, we're within a foot of the existing garage.
So it'd be understated instead of having like a peak or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah,
We
just
still
having the
have-
shed roof.
Yeah.
So from this view, you would still see almost the entirety of the building facade.
And this is the most obstructed view that you
Right,
could
from
possibly
the-
have.
From the southern part, yeah.
That's why I put it.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? What am I supposed to
No.
say next?
No. Oh, good.
Well, I would say, or I would ask that in the approval that you would either affirm what was selected or any number of the ones that was presented that you feel are
Any
appropriate.
one of these would be fine.
Are there any specific opinions about the garage selection?
I move that we approve the design as presented.
Well,
And
actually,
I'm sorry?
okay.
Am I too fast?
I have a amendment to one of the conditions that I think will be helpful for the applicant. Condition number 2 says the preservation incentive is approved to site the garage in the proposed location, and I'm going to add up to a 0-foot front yard setback, and we'll let the public works right away and building permit negotiate if you have to be half a foot or a foot,
And
whatever.
the neighborhood association had no.
Yeah, the comments were related to the garage door with the substantive comments from Denise McGriff.
And it's going to be basically painted the same as the house, the blue and the white. Okay.
So I guess the only open question I had was, you're looking for on the right-hand side up to a 0 lot line, or you're hoping that you don't need to dig any more to the right?
On the left-hand side, being towards Madison Street,
Meaning looking at the front of the garage to the right.
So the south.
So in the picture that we have now,
Into that hillside.
into the hillside, your
Right.
drawing is showing that the garage is going to be expanded sort of
30 inches.
30 inches, but if I recall from your comments that you were saying, well, if I don't need to dig any more, was that referring to the downward direction there, or was that referring to the backwards?
If you look, this is the front yard setback right here.
Right.
Their property is actually way down here, but this is what I'm talking about.
okay.
This was that easement they couldn't get into.
Right.
So in a perfect world, this whole garage would be over here,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't do it. And so that's why they're kind of just manipulating in the space they have. And so even if this can move up a little bit and be right back of sidewalk.
Right, so the only wiggle room we're asking for is front to back versus side to side.
No.
Well, this is setback. So the setback, it clearly meets the side yard setback.
No,
Yeah.
I understand that, but fine. So what I was trying to figure out was, is it potential for the garage to move any further to the left
Oh, in front of the house. Is
in
that
front of
what
the
you're-
house?
I don't think so, but we can clearly define that can't happen in a condition if there's a worry.
we were not requesting that, simply expanding it 30 inches north.
Fair enough.
There was one extra, I wanted to, just for the record, show that the design guidelines for new construction ideally do say that garage doors should be 8 to 10 feet and additional widths should be on a case-by-case basis. So I do have findings in the staff report that explain kind of the situation, why, and because of all the constraints, why this door is allowed to be 16 feet and why it's mitigated by the choice of the design. So the next person that comes in, that you don't necessarily get the 16-foot garage door. So if there was an opportunity, I think we definitely would want 8 to 10-foot garage doors. But this is really just a larger one-car garage door and kind of requiring the applicant just to put in a 10-foot garage door because of their issue. I don't think they've mitigated it by the quality of their design and their materials. So each time, the way the design guidelines it's up to the board to look at each proposal on a case-by-case basis when they're above. When they're wider than 8 to 10 feet.
We'll add to that the existing garage appeared to have a door that size, which assists in those findings.
I'm looking to you. So basically, we need a
So
motion
what I'm
at this
hearing,
point.
I
or-
don't hear any additional finding requirements for garage that as proposed is accepted? Or do you want to allow additional options for the garage doors?
Beyond these, you mean?
Well, right now, there's only one submitted into the record. You
And that's
could,
The Pizarro, right?
right, if the applicant wants additional options and the board wants to give it, or the applicant is happy with what's proposed, then no additional conditions need to be added. But either we have to provide if you want additional options, we need to put it in the conditions.
Do you want them, or we can accept it as drawn?
Let's have them, all four.
I
Let
think-
the owner choose.
I agree.
Okay. So I'm going to add a condition number 6 that the applicant may, can I actually see it just so I know it?
Basically, it's how the base, below
Yeah.
the window panel
Okay.
is
So
articulated.
basically, the applicant may choose any garage door configuration shown in Exhibit A.
I have a question, Derek. So the Ortega one, what fills that space?
It's a
Just
solid
wood.
panel.
Solid panel, natural.
It's a large
wood.
panel.
say-
How is that made up?
It is made out of plywood. It's solid. When it's solid like that, you do see more of the grooves. Not grooves, but the joint lines where the horizontal panels come together. But they're constructed pretty well. It's not terribly noticeable.
I wouldn't say, I would suggest that they not have anything off of Exhibit A. I would think you'd either go Ortega or the Pizarro. Just because
Cruise or
the other one
Castillo?
gets, huh?
So you are not recommending the use of the
Well,
Cruise or the
the
Castillo?
Cruise or Castillo, I don't know. They look more like, more rural as opposed to more urban. Or not. They look kind of more barn door-y, especially the Castile grooved one. To me. That's just me.
I'll take the direction of the board.
It's up to, and that's just my 2 cents. I think that Ortega or Pizarro keep it a little bit simpler,
Is that a separate
in line
vote?
with the simple.
Well, I'm working on my condition of approval, so we can either not have a condition of approval and it's just as submitted, or what I'm hearing from Ms. Met is the applicant may choose the Pizarro or Ortega option and shown in Exhibit A, or all 4 options. So you either can spell out the options you want, all 4 options, or we don't even use condition of approval number 6, and the applicant just
Jesus.
Does this with
builds what's proposed,
What's
what's been
proposed.
proposed.
which is the Pizarro.
I actually like what was proposed.
Yeah.
And presuming the applicant is aware of what they've proposed.
And presuming the applicant has a competent architect.
Yeah, I would.
Can we check the bona fides of that architect?
Yeah. I don't know if we necessarily need to allow the other doors as shown, because the drawing as proposed seemed appropriate.
Yeah.
Fine too, so we don't have to have condition of approval 6.
Nope, just as submitted.
Okay. So right now, the only amendment is to number 2, which allows up to a 0-foot front yard setback. All right, are we ready for a motion?
So moved with that condition.
You have to do the
Approved.
motion.
Oh, okay. What's the number?
Oh, jeez.
HR 1505.
I move that we approve HRB 1505 as amended with the condition of the setback.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Bob Stewart,
Yes.
Ken
Hey,
Basinger,
Aye.
Clara Matt,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Stone.
Jeez.
Chair of the vice.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you very much.
motion
Yes.
carries.
Now you get to adjourn the meeting.
Pleasure to
So hold on. I have two communication points. One, on December 5th at the tree lighting ceremony, Public Works is doing a little celebration for the elevator. They're going to be up at the top of the elevator giving away cookies.
Finally.
And it's 100 years.
I understand they are in the shape of elevators.
They are. Well, it was either the shape of elevators or a circle with an elevator on it. I know they've been. It's all about pricing. But they are going to be giving out our new pamphlet to the public. And if any of you would like to volunteer for like an hour, they would love anybody who, if you want to sit out and help give out cookies and.
At the top of the
At the
elevator?
top of the
I hope
elevator.
it's
Is it gonna
not
be
pouring
inside?
down rain or.
No, I think they would attend.
I'm going to be there anyways.
Yeah, well, they'd be happy if any of you want to volunteer. They'd be happy to have. And I said I'd throw it
That's
out.
next Friday?
This is the 5th.
Next Saturday.
Saturday.
I'll be there. I hear there's an awesome building right next door.
I know. And I heard they're looking at doing some.
Alteration.
Well, no, some events. So. So that's my first one. The second one, I have some exciting and sad and good news. I'm going to be working full time on Willamette Falls.
Oh,
So I will still be here. I'll still be preservation, but we're bringing a staff in to help me. So notice goes out in about a week for a half-time preservation planner. So that person
Well, it's an
probably
unknown quantity. at this
unknown
point.
quantity. That person will start in January, February. I'll still be here on the board until I'm not needed, and it's a clear transition. But I will always be here, and I'm technically in charge of that person. So
So,
I'm not going away.
but staff to us and Jane.
He or she will be staff to you unless I need to be there, or it's controversial, or at the very beginning. I'd say definitely through the spring and summer. I'll be here and I'll be reviewing everything. But there'll be an extra person here, and then all the day-to-day meeting with the property owners and meeting with that staff person will do all that work and answering the questions and doing counter stuff because I'm having trouble doing both.
What a surprise. What a surprise.
Yeah.
But the reason, if you saw that big check that came out,
Yes.
so the reason is that check. We are able to move forward with a joint master plan, a refined master plan and development strategy with the owners. So actually, the community development planning grant through Metro was $450,000. Falls Legacy LLC is matching that, and we're moving forward to do a development strategy for them as well as looking at infrastructure phasing and having a better understanding of the whole site. So when we move forward with our implementation strategy and funding strategy, we'll understand the cost and the gap for and we'll be able to look holistically at that. Our goal right now is to potentially use the same design firm as the Riverwalk, so we can integrate the design in with the Riverwalk. So we are all kind of marching together, and the Riverwalk will be able to catalyze economic development, but also the economic development can be placed and designed so it can catalyze the use of the Riverwalk. And that makes sure that where phase one is being built is where we want phase one of the private development to be built, so they're not opposite each other. And there was extra money for staff time to help pay for me, which is how we're getting this new planner. So that's really exciting, but I'll still be all here. So that notice goes out next week.
congratulations.
It's going to be open for about 3 weeks. If you know anybody who would be really interested in a part-time, or there is potentially an opportunity for a full-time, we're having both. We have a full-time assistant planner and a part-time planner. Because Kelly Moosberger is also moving to work fully on Willamette Falls, doing more support for Metro and the project manager. So both those positions are up. So there could be a scenario where the assistant planner comes with preservation knowledge too, but we're kind of putting both out at the same time to see what our net catches.
Excellent.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exciting.
Okay.
that's all I have.
And with that,
I do have a.
Oh, sure.
You guys all heard about the devastation or the vandalism up at the cemetery. They are having a cemetery cleanup tomorrow from 9 to 12. The cemetery, and we have ROTC kids, and then the Optimist.
Is that from the high school?
I'm sorry.
ROTC from the high school?
And it's from 9 to 12, and they're just going to try to clean up, some of that. And they did quite a bit of damage.
Is there still an award?
I'm sorry.
Is there still a award out for money for?
They're still, yeah, they're, I'm surprised that the kids didn't, brag, how they kind of brag about between them, but no, from what I understand, they haven't found anybody that did that. So, anyway, I just thought, if anybody's not busy, haha.
I would be there, but I'm on counter.
Yeah.
What am I? Google us counters.
And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Off to new seasons to go.
Off to new seasons I go.